Hey friends, when we contemplate non-duality, which is to say we contemplate our essential oneness that we all share in, that we're all part of, there's a vertical dimension to this and a horizontal dimension. The vertical dimension is like each individual or seemingly separate self's connection to the source. So you could think of it like a thread running from your seemingly individual self up to the divine, or to God, if you choose to use that kind of spiritual and religious terminology. And it's relatively easy, I think, for us to understand this vertical dimension of non-duality. A famous text says that deep down in every man, woman, and child is the fundamental idea of God. And it's not very hard for us, at least on an intuitive level, to sort of grok that each of us is a spark of that divine source in human form, that divinity is living through us. I think where it becomes more challenging to understand non-duality is on the horizontal dimension, which is where we connect with other beings and we share in our being together in this plane of existence. And it's particularly true with other human beings, and especially true when other human beings are behaving badly, behaving in ways that are upsetting or threatening or whatever the case may be. Then it's very easy for walls within us to go up and the feeling of separation to be very strong between beings. So I was thinking of a metaphor recently or an analogy that helps me think about this a little more clearly. And as is often the case with analogies, they're really helpful, especially when they are very simple analogies that come from the natural world or from our everyday lived experience. And this is one of those. So the analogy is just of a tree. So when you picture a tree, it has many parts. It has its roots that extend very far underground, and we can't see those. And they come together to form the trunk of the tree, which rises up from the ground. And it gives the tree its height, and then as it goes up, it starts to branch out in the major branches, and then sub-branches and sub-branches and sub-branches of the sub-branches. And finally, when it gets to the very ends of those sub-branches, you see the leaves of the tree. And the leaves are kind of like what each of us seemingly separate individual selves are. We are to the one being what the leaves are to the tree. And basically what we do in our everyday lives is we identify so strongly with being a separate self and being separate from the world around us and separate from other beings, that it's as if the leaf on the tree were identifying so strongly with being a leaf and not fundamentally understanding its treeness. There actually is no leaf apart from the tree. The leaf is an expression of the tree. It is the natural and logical sort of end tip, the end point of the tree on that particular sub branch of the tree. But there is no essential leafness apart from the tree itself. And in the same way, there is no essential human being apart from the one being that we all share in, which you may or may not choose to call divinity or God or consciousness, or there's so many words from different spiritual traditions that we can use to describe the one. But there's basically only ever the one. This is what all the non-dual philosophical traditions of the world from the last 3,000 years have been telling us, that there's essentially only one being, and that every seemingly individual separate self is an expression, an end point of that one being, just like the leaf on the tree is an end point or an expression of the tree itself. So what we do in our everyday human existence is we get so locked into identifying as a leaf on the tree of being, right? And we see ourselves as being so separate from all the other leaves on our little sub-branch of the tree, and then maybe we see another sub-branch of the tree with a whole other bunch of leaves, and we get caught up in this ideological warfare of thinking that our branch is better than their branch, and you know, the leaves over here are better than the leaves over there, and so on. And this is basically what human beings have been doing since time immemorial, separating themselves, identifying first and foremost as an individual self, and then as a collective self that is separate from another collective self and going to war with each other. So you can see the absurdity of this, and particularly in this analogy of the tree, it's as if the leaves and the branches of the tree were going to war with one another and separating themselves from each other, when in fact they are all simply the tree. There is no leafness, there's no branchness separate from the inherent treeness that is there. There's only the tree, there only ever was the tree, there only ever will be the tree, and leaves are simply the natural expression of the tree that arises in the moment. And of course, as we are so reluctant to admit, when a leaf's time when it has served its purpose and the time has come and the leaf no longer is serving the tree's purpose, then the leaf falls from the tree and is absorbed into the ground and becomes part of the tree's nourishment, and so on. So just like that, we human beings, we have our purpose within the tree of being. We have our time to take this human form and do all the things that we do. And then when our time is up, we fall from the tree, and our energy is recycled into whatever comes next. So it's very useful to remember that we are not in fact separate selves. We are part of the one being, just like the leaf is part of the one tree, and every other leaf on that tree, no matter how separate it seems from the perspective of one individual leaf, is simply also part of the same tree, the only tree.